we were encouraged to take on this initiative and thought, well, how does education relate to the work of the refuge? Now, I thought, in terms of opening comments, I have 4 kids. And, each one is in 2 in high school, 2 in elementary school, not in Whitby. I live in the Clarington district. But education is really important to me and my wife, because we know that through the education, our kids have a chance for a future, a chance for a hope. They have personal development. And maybe you're past the child years and you don't have kids in school. But at the same time, education still is important because you're a taxpayer. And the Durham boards, both of them, spend millions of dollars in educating our kids and creating the systems. And that's your money. And so you really should have an interest in what is going on with your funds. I also thought education is also important for the youth at the refuge. The refuge works with homeless and street-involved youth in the Durham region. And it's important because it's a way out of poverty for them. It's a way out of physical poverty, it's a way out of economic poverty, it's a way out of relational poverty, and what's the other word I'm looking for? Emotional poverty. Refuge is an organization, we started in 1999, and since 1999 we've seen over 4,200 different young people that have come to the refuge. Last year we saw 429 different young people come, and they came 9,687 times. And last year we served 12,027 meals to young people who were homeless or street involved. Where do they come from? They come from our region. 92% are physically or sexually abused, and they have that in their history. 70% were Crown wards or are Crown wards, meaning they grew up in the care of the CAS system. And most of them are addicted to some sort of substance as a way to cope with the pain of their lives. Now, all of them are looking for a way out, and many of them don't know that way out. And that's what we're trying to do at the refuge. We've been working with them since '99. We provide meals, we provide clothing, personal hygiene products. But probably the thing that we provide the most that they need is a place where they're loved, they're nurtured, they're encouraged, they're safe, and they belong. In a sense, a home and a community. Now tonight we're discussing education in the Durham region, and particularly in Whitby. School board trustees, and I'll read this comes from a quote from a handbook, are community's advocates for public education. They work on behalf of Ontario's children, families, and communities to promote student achievement and well-being. Trustees play a key leadership role in setting the strategic direction of their local school board and in making sure that the local school is accountable for student success and well-being. As members of the school board, trustees work to put into place programs and policies that reflect the needs of the students in their community. They work with the board's director of education to provide direction for the achievement of key goals and priorities, and to ensure effective operations of the school board. So tonight we have several candidates. I'll introduce them alphabetically so that there's no preference. The format of tonight, we'll give them opening remarks. I will have, as the moderator, some questions to ask of them, at which point they can each answer and even challenge each other at some point in time if they feel the need to. We will have a coffee break at about 8 o'clock, at which point you can interact with the candidates. There are some questions back there, not questions, they're blank sheets. They will be questions if you fill them out. After 8 o'clock or 8:15, we'll start asking questions from the audience. Now that can come in the form of, if you'd like to ask a question directly, please do so. If you feel a little timid to ask a question directly, fill out one of those questions. Matt, raise your hand for me. Matt's going to help me collecting the questions during that break time, or you can give them directly to me and we'll make sure your question is asked. I am going to ask you not to try to attack individuals' personalities or personally. This is about issues, this is about education, and not necessarily about individuals and any kind of smear campaigns or things like that. So let's keep it to the issues tonight. We have Gerald Parker. Gerald is a well-known community activist that supports youth and especially the most vulnerable. He is known to always roll up his sleeves and look for the reason and solutions to assist our youth to thrive and survive in an ever-changing world. As the executive director of the Institute of Canadian Justice, he's worked with vulnerable youth and harm reduction solutions for over 2 decades. Gerald is the Parent Involvement Committee Community Representative for Whitby, Brooklyn. He's on 2 school councils and participated in the recent preliminary strategic planning for the Durham District School Board. Gerald is a proud dad of 3 DDSB students, all of which are also community volunteers, has been married for almost 25 years to his wife, Lori. Lori, identify? Excellent. Gerald cares about student success, robust supports to ensure no child gets left behind, and working hard to listen to act upon the ideas and challenges that face our vulnerable youth. Please welcome Gerald.
Good evening, and thank you very much, everybody, and to the Refuge. My name's Gerald Parker, and I'm running for one of the 2 positions on the Whitby School Board for the Durham District School Board. Being part of leading processes for over 25 years, I truly understand what it takes locally and internationally to attend to the best and brightest, including our school boards and municipalities across Ontario. I understand the operational obligations. As the largest employer for Durham, and with over 68,000 students and a $0.8 billion budget, the DDSB requires strong leadership, real commitment, and meaningful experience. Having spoken with thousands of Whitby residents, students, teachers, administrators, and parents, I was convinced to run. This is not a part-time job for me. It's truly about the students and the school success. It will take dedication, experience, insight, and fortitude. When the chips are down, I am dependable and the strong voice of reason. I will always roll up my sleeves and get results. As the Executive Director of the Institute for Canadian Justice, I contend with some of the most difficult public policy issues in Canada. This is complementary as a trustee. I am a harm reduction and risk management expert. When people get run over in front of school zones because of missing sidewalks, everyone loses. Families are ruined and millions taken from the classrooms. I am running for very good reasons. Another reason is the school board team needs real help with leadership. I'm here for that, with fortitude in dealing with these issues. Also, Lori and I have 3 children. One is in grade 8, one is going on to be a teacher, and the other is right here before you tonight as a television broadcast grad.
10 seconds.
All members of the district school board. Your insight is always welcome and so priceless. I will always listen and passionately state your case, especially when others do not. This is about our children and ensuring our community has the necessary leadership. It is about bridging the vulnerabilities and supporting the great work of good people, just like the Refuge. Again, thank you.
Perfect. Next, high school students to the Refuge as an educational retreat to experience what it's like to be homeless, and then do a street walk and look at the different agencies, and ultimately to be how to be part of the solution when it relates to homelessness and youth on the streets. So we get faculty members in all the time, and I ask them a couple questions. We're holding this debate. What do you want to know of your people who are vying for the position of trustee, school trustee? So I have a few questions from faculty members as well. So it'll be interesting. But let's start with this. And candidates, if you could keep your comments in the range of 2 minutes to answer questions, and certainly we've got an order for that as well. I'll ask you this: what are your, being a trustee is looking at the needs currently as well as the needs in the future. What are your top 3 priorities as it relates to the school boards in which you're vying for a position?
Here we go. All right, top 3 priorities for the school board. 1, as has been mentioned, communication, communication, communication. Our kids live in the 21st century. As parents, we are there too. We need to make sure that communication platforms are robust, comprehensive, and efficient. You can go from any one school's website to another and not have today's events on it. It is not acceptable. When we are looking at accessibility and the inclusion of people with disabilities and the various special ed accommodations that we are required to provide in Ontario as part of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities law and the associated legislations that come with it, we are required to visually, tactilely, and audibly present our information. So making that available to people before they get to the classroom, making it available to parents and teachers after the kids leave the classroom is productive, it's efficient, and it's 21st century. That's the first thing. The second thing is school safety and student safety. If our kids are not getting to school safely with affordable and safe transport, whether it's walking to school in front of Ontario's newest high school that has no sidewalk, dodging the fire truck that's trying to cross the road. Akil is talking about a PhD in post-traumatic stress. Could you imagine being the driver of that fire truck every time you come out of the school? There are 3 things you don't put in front of a school: a long-term care facility, a school, and a hospital, because they don't see you, they don't hear you, and you are disturbing them every time. So the captain is making a second guess on coming out of that fire station. PTSD is accumulative, and we are already dealing with million-dollar lawsuits because mums have been run over because in school zones with 10 schools, 6,300 kids, largest high school in Durham, largest center of employment, I say the Durham District School Board, no sidewalk in front of the EMS, the DRPS on a major intersection. That's the second thing.
And very quickly, your third one.
Okay, and the third one, teaching the student not to test. Simple. People. Students are people. They are not a cohort or a number. Our children need to be respected for who they are and how they learn. And if we're not giving them tactile, audible, and visual presentations, we're simply not doing our job. Welcome to the 21st century, folks. I'm glad to see you, that you're here.
Any other candidate wish to in their lives? Some have simply not been supported or nurtured by parents whatsoever. Let me give you a little example of that as it relates to education as well. We had an art show a couple years ago. Now, here's a shameless plug. We have an art show coming up on the 15th of November. Local community artists who are selling their artwork, proceeds going to the refuge. It's going to be a fantastic night on the 15th. Saturday, Christmas, need some gifts, get the hints. I've got cards both at the table back there and up here. So shameless plug, I know. But we had an art show a couple years ago, and the director of the art show decided to put some creative elements into place as well, and basically reenact some scenarios we saw at the refuge. Okay, that's not my timer. I don't get 2 minutes. And so one of the scenarios was a couple years ago we had 4 young people, 3 guys and a young lady who were living, they had no place to live, and they were creative, and it was springtime, and they lived in a demo shed at one of the local retailers. Very creative solution, in my opinion. They would go in at night when the store closed. They would close the door. The place was a mess. They had a bottle in which to do their business in the night. Yes, get the picture. And they would leave early in the morning, so before any staff members would come. And they did this for 6 weeks. Now, one of the young ladies, it was the only young lady in that shed, was frequently at the refuge doing grade 10 math homework at the tables of the refuge. She was living in a demo shed, and yet she was going to one of our high schools here in the region. And it simply, the story turned out well. As we did this, some young lady tapped one of our staff members and said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he said, "No, you look or sound familiar," and said, "Hey, it's me." I'll call her Jennifer. "I see you have my demo shed." And we were holding this at Trent University, and this young lady was now a psychology student at Trent University. Because of supports from the refuge and in her life, she was able to get past that. But my question is this. What will you guys do as trustees to champion the needs of vulnerable youth in our society if you are elected to your various school boards?
Because it's not what we do, it's how we do it, right? Okay. Keela says to me all the time, it takes a village to raise a child. We all know that. We're parents. We know that. Okay? Well, when our elders fail our most precious, vulnerable, extremely traumatic, life-changing events occur. Starvation, homelessness, exposure to criminality, student success at that point is in dire, dire question. The question is then, how and why people entrusted with our children fail them so badly that they cannot even show up tonight. This is not a question of resources, it's a question of respect, trust, and commitment, and yes, lawful obligation. Commit to have difficult discussions and the heart to see them through. And I mean the heart to see them through. It is simply not happening in Durham Region. We are going to waste millions on boatloads of lawyers on defending the indefensible. Then additional supports to the made vulnerable should be just as easily assigned, right? If we're willing to give lawyers $5 million, why not the vulnerable programs? So it takes a village, needs our elders that care, present, accounted for, to act to mitigate risk and vulnerabilities. Now, the solutions. This is the important part, because I think about this a lot. Because after 25 years, one of the first things I did many years ago was help build Canada's first accessible women's shelter in Parkdale, one of the most vulnerable neighborhoods in all of Canada. So, solutions. Robust communication platforms that bridge vulnerabilities, support student success, and triangulate parental and teacher resources with folks just like the refuge. So we all know, empathy goes a huge and long way. Getting that message out, important. Nutrition, breakfast clubs with student volunteers getting community hours, locally sourced and partnered with, say, local employment programs like the Redwoods has a catering company, do you not? I think we should locally resource those folks because they need jobs. Peer-to-peer supports, homework clubs, and pre- and post-school safe school areas. This was brought up in this point, safe school areas, because when dysfunction rules at home and elsewhere, we have a big problem. More days of changes and empathy and engagements in the community linkages.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up really quick.
Okay. Safe and affordable transport, right? If kids can't get to school safely and affordably in the province and in the region with second highest transit student cash fare in all of Ontario. Let me say that again, second highest cash fare in all of Ontario. We're going to solve that, so that's a problem. We need to understand that public education is the last vestige and safe haven so often, and we need more vulnerable beds here in Durham Region. There are only 12. We need to help the refuge get more vulnerable beds. We need to assign DDSB youth advocates, help build Redwood. We need to help champion the refuge and vulnerable youth. This is our village, and we're its elders.
All right, I'm going to hold you there. Thank you, Gerald.
We make a great pair. We complement each other very well. She has the smarts. I got to go to it. Okay, what would I do? Or I think, as Akila would put it, what would we continue to do? Well, as a parent involvement committee rep, which is a provincially mandated committee, I know that the foundation to our school includes parents. And if we cut them out of the equation, don't return their phone calls, and then wonder why they get upset, well, we've got dysfunction within the system, and that has to end. So what would I do? Trustee accountability right away. No more superintendent targeting of frustrated parents who have worked so long and hard to do right by their children. That's the first thing. The second thing, being present and accounted for. Let me give you an example. Last week, 2 weeks ago, was a safety week, which is the most important launch for the school board, arguably so. There were only 2 spots open in the entire Ed Center, the trustees. There was not one, let me count there, not one trustee in the building. Now, as a harm reduction specialist who knows that prescription pills kill more people, and youth particularly, than motor vehicle collisions in North America, why is Generation RX in the front lobby? They're the pharmaceutical lobbyists. If I was a trustee, they wouldn't be allowed on the property. Period. Present and accounted for. Increased parent involvement. We are the foundation of everything that goes on in the school. We are the solutions. We are the people that go to and drive our kids to school when labor unrest comes our way. Again. We need to be standing together, side by side, behind each other, in front of each other, to make the point known to the ministry and to the province that our kids are not going to be used as political pawns. Again, being present and accounted for. 68,000 kids means that there's well over 100,000 parents. United we stand, divided we shall fall. So let us stand together proudly, present and accounted for, and do our job. This is not a part-time endeavor.
At the refuge, we don't necessarily see a wide variety of mental health issues, but it certainly exists, and it certainly is a factor in an adult population of homelessness, where there is a lot of mental health, and sometimes that is one of the reasons why it keeps them on the street. Some of these things begin to develop and school-aged years. So very quickly, how will you, if elected as trustee, support student mental health and well-being in the schools? 1 minute.
Yes, as an accessibility expert, I know that 1 in 5 people suffered mental health issues during the course of their life. It's a reality. I also know that the number one hospital admission reason for adolescents is self-harm. I also know that prevalences within dysfunctional circumstances make that situation much more compounded and acute. So, mental health is an incredibly important issue. The fact that our kids are getting prescribed drugs because the doctor's saying pink pill, is a real issue. But I want to talk about 3 solutions here. 1, teach the student and know the student. Real relationships and people with real intuition and real training. 2, understand that yes, indeed, mental health is 1 in 5. We need to understand that in the prevalences. I made that point before. 3, let the kids play. I had a group of kids show up my front door a couple of weekends ago saying, we're not allowed to play on the 2nd and 3rd fields because there's not enough supervision. These are grade 8 kids in one of the most acute times in their lives, not being able to get the ants out of their pants and have a holistic experience. Let the children play.
Thank you.
A nondescript envelope in the mail last week, and it read, I am a friend of the town. I have read your website, and it is Superintendent Visser that refused the sidewalks. This was done anonymously in a very CSI-like way. It was kind of telling, but this is why I'm expressing this example to you. Our schooling and our busing is dysfunctional. It is based upon as the crow flies. Well, in the 21st century, you get arrested for trespassing for going as the crow flies. The solution to this is many. I've had the meetings to try and get the sidewalks at, let's say, Brooklyn High School. The trustees didn't show up, just like tonight. I worked with my colleagues of over 20 years at MTO to get solutions. It was the board that shut it down. The school board does not want to have sidewalks in front of its own school. They spend $80,000 on a berm and a fence rather than $60,000 to provide safe and affordable transportation that is healthy and environmentally sound for our students. Meanwhile, mums are getting run over. We're getting $5 million lawsuits getting taken out of our schools. And yes, that is dysfunction by definition. Failed to plan, plan to fail. But there's solutions here. There are. Safe school routes. Clear the routes and make the town, make them safe and accessible. Second thing is, the AODA, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, now has $50,000, I correct myself, up to $100,000 per day per director for fines for refusing to provide this infrastructure. That is the law. The second thing is Section 72 of the Criminal Code of Canada, otherwise known as the West Ray Mines, because when a teacher on safety patrol gets run over on Baldwin Avenue, the union has zero tolerance for death and injury, and yes, Section 72 of the Criminal Code of Canada will be implemented, and I will ensure it gets applied, because when you plan to fail and you fail to plan, and kids get run over and die because of it, yes, people should be sent to jail.
Gerald, if you could wrap it up.
Sure. So I say this, hire some students to help with the safety. Why does our largest employer in the region not hire students? I think there's great students out there that could really do a great job helping out with our full-day kindergarten, our overwhelmed parking lots, our stressed-out parents, and making it all much safer and much more sounder. And oh, get rid of the second highest transit fare in all of Ontario.
Leah.
Working with partners requires cooperation. I love to hear about people that speak about endorsements with people that don't want to cooperate. As chair of the Finance Committee for the region of Durham, certain people allowed us to have and continue with the highest student fare in all, second highest in all of Ontario. There is no student cash fare in Durham. It goes from child to adult. My wife, taking the same bus, going the same place at the same time, spends 70 cents While my son with an e-purse, because I helped get that happen, first student with Metrolinx at $2.64, a $2 difference. Who's riding who? Who's subsidizing who? And public education is not in the business of public transit, period. So what do we need to solve this? Well, if the bus don't want to respect our kids and their future business, let's get our kids walking on safe school routes, cleared of snow that is buttressed by late arrival information, absentee information, that the superintendent of Whitby said to me just 2 weeks ago in an email that they don't collect. Imagine that. A school not knowing its own kids coming and going. Well, I can tell you under Section 295 of the Education Act, that superintendent lied to me. The fact that I was speaking about White Oaks, the most vulnerable location in all of Whitby, whose kids and parents may not be there, because, well, that's just the vulnerabilities here, that when folks like us try and solve problems, we get slammed down, slapped down, and lied to by the administration. Where's our trustee? It should never even go any further than that.
Gerald,
Period.
I'll hold you to that.
Thank you.
Andrea Omot.
I act with respect. I am honest, and when someone asks me a serious question, I give a serious answer, and I don't lie about it. I don't need friends to tell me that I'm a good person. I wake up every morning knowing it because the day before I worked hard for it. I look at my wife and kids and they know that they're good people and I'm a good person, and my reputation and record is very clear on that. But it does take experience to know the difference. I'm not willing to cut people slack that have been given so much rope and so many shovels and so much time that they don't want to get the job done. I was at an LGBTQ meeting last week that brought me to tears, 2 years after it was originally done, with a 4-page diatribe that was supposed to be authorized within the hour. That is not the Charter of Rights. That is not the Human Rights Code. That is not working hard for our students. That's people making excuses for each other so they can maintain a status quo in their position within it. I'm not that person. I'm a strong advocate. I believe in reason, research, facts, and figures, not innuendo. And when I say someone's lied to me, I say it and I mean it, and I will stand by it in a court of law. I will answer the question that the Chamber of Commerce couldn't answer 2 weeks ago. First of all, Durham District School Board is the largest employer in all of Durham. Second of all, its budget is almost $0.8 billion. Okay? $800 million. That's a lot of money. Bigger than the towns. More kids, 7,300 employees. That's a lot of folks, a lot of money, and they're all at Taunton and Anderson, at the headquarters there, and the sidewalk on the west side, I got put in. Largest employer. So, what's their responsibility? Making sure that we don't spend money and flush it down the drains, paying off lawyers and pharmaceutical products for mums that have been run over because a subdeveloper didn't put in a sidewalk that 10 schools of 6,300 kids pull off every day, and that a report was refused because political favors were being made. Someone got hit. So responsibility, risk management, risk mitigation, first thing. Second thing, accountability. You go and spend someone else's money illegally, you go to jail. Period. You're taking it from our kids, you go to jail. More so, you're robbing children. Taking candy from children is bad. Didn't your grandmother teach you that?
And Gerald, in 30 seconds.
And the last point is here, the board cannot be continuing to hide minutes from us all. They're doing that. It's a shell game. So accountability, transparency is at the heart of this issue. It really is. And it takes real people with real heart and fortitude to stand up and say so and not accept any excuses. I don't accept excuses from my kids. Why would I take them from people I pay for?
Thank you, Gerald.
I'm just saying.
What would you as a trustee do to prevent students from falling through the cracks in the first place, before they even get there?
What should we do to stop students falling through the cracks? 1, respect parental and caregiver involvement in solutions. 2, make sure that trustees respond to calls. I've never had an email or a call from any one of my trustees. That's the second thing. Administration needs to be accountable. It is not acceptable that our children get educational accommodations done 2 years ago, and we're arguing about them being implemented 2 years later. Hold administration accountable and stop them from squandering the millions of dollars of resource deployment on unfulfilled educational and individualized education plans. We spend millions on them, and they're for a reason. My kid has not had his for 2 years. My kid has not had his for 2 years. Last 2 points, we need an office of youth advocates. We need to make sure that frustrated parents and students are not getting targeted by administration for standing up, speaking up, and saying enough already. Thank you for the Refuge, Clarence, and the town of Whitby, the Whitby Library, for having us here today. Your leadership is certainly appreciated. Thank you for you folks, the voters, the teachers, the folks before us watching tonight, for your insight and the questions at the door and your tweets. They're amazing. Thank you for your kind wishes and incredible solutions and heartfelt stories. I am humbled and clearly impassioned by your trust. I will honor you all, and I promise strong advocacy, kind insight, and collective results. The success of our students, school community, and collective future is worth fighting for, and I'm committing to making it a full-time endeavor. Our children deserve nothing less. We need strong, results-oriented, committed people, leaders with insight, passion, and dependable, present and accounted for, and I certainly will be that. I will put the trust back in Trustee. Our students and schools deserve nothing less. I will continue to provide every opportunity for good people to do great things, but I will not accept excuses. A future where we make the refuge less and less necessary. This is my promise to you. I will always have an open door policy. I will listen and act upon your ideas and concerns. I will hold routine meetings. I will provide timely responses and effective resolution. I will be present and accounted for. I will promote student and parent involvement, safeguard school zones and designated safe school routes, champion accessibility and equity, ensure equitable and intelligent resource deployment. I will fight for holistic educational accommodations, work hard for important programs, ensure great teachers get the best and brightest resources, encourage and support robust and effective communication platforms. I will ensure your voice is heard and honored. I will demand transparency and accountability. I will always return and honor your insight. I will not go away on vacation during the first and busiest weeks of school. I will be present. I will return your calls. Please vote for Gerald Parker as one of your 2 trusts, one of your 2 choices on October the 27th. Please go visit votegeraldparker.ca, Twitter, Whitby Trustee, or on Facebook. And again, I want to wholeheartedly thank you folks.
7th, you have a job to do and to vote for a candidate. And hopefully, through the words of the candidates here, you've been educated, pun intended, as to their stance, and perhaps also educated as to the lack of attendance by other candidates. So thank you for coming this evening. I'm not sure if there's still coffee, but I sure will get some on the way out. And feel free to stick around and ask some questions. Again, my apologies to not getting to everybody's questions, but if we did, we could be here till 10:30, and by that time, I'll fall asleep. Thank you so much. Have a good night.